Yeah, I don't believe in destiny, I just do what's best for me. Don't listen to my enemies, they're just full of jealousy. Yeah, this legacy, you gon' see what's left of me. You gon' see success in me, you ain't seen the rest of me. I just wanna be the best at what I know, better than the rest, just watch me grow. Put me to the test and watch me go. This is my quest, I'ma make it known. They call me obsessive, oh I know. Call me selective with my notes, call me aggressive with my flow. Call me offensive even though Joe, I ain't gonna lie, life's tough. Try to get by, life's rough. Try to do it right, it's not enough. Even though you try, you still mess up. But I'm still gonna fight for what I love, still gonna die for what I love. Still gonna try, I won't give up. Still gonna fight until I've won. They say I'm way too obsessed and I've got nothing left, and I'm not quite there yet, but those words they'll regret. Cause I've got something left and I'm not giving in. I will not let them win, I won't stop till the end, no.
Well, hello, and welcome to the first ever Talking Normal. Talking Normal is going to be a show, a podcast each and every week in which we talk about some of the things that are addressed within the parental equality community. Now, this is going to be a situation where we will introduce this show tonight, and we will also talk about a very important topic in the community. One of the utmost important topics in the community, actually, in which we talk about suicide and suicide prevention. This is a topic that's near and dear to me as being a former chaplain's assistant in the United States Army, having training in that particular area, and going through those issues as I have for many years, but also applying it to this actual parental equality community, because there are so many who actually go through these symptoms, these issues that we deal with. Not only are we probably one of the highest groups out there that have suicide issues that we deal with, in helping and in treating other people that are going through this with suicides, but also we have the long-lasting effects of having lost some of those people. And so those people who are close to the people who we have lost are more susceptible to having those same issues, same problems, and that's definitely relatable to this community. And so definitely out there, I know that we're very new to this. This is a so-called spin-off show of the Far From Normal radio show, and we love and we care and we appreciate those people who have come and worked on that show earlier. We love them, we care about them. They're going to be out there, they're going to be doing their thing, and we're going to spin off in a particular direction that actually helps us in this issue, because this is going to be a show where it's all about moral character principles, and it's also going to be about educating, empowering, and giving information that's much needed in this movement. The information that's much needed in this movement is going to be addressed through certain scenarios. What we're going to do on Talking Normal each and every week is we're going to talk about very important issues that no one else wants to address. Suicide being one of them. No one really wants to come on and do a show about suicide. I just happen to be nuts and crazy enough to do that. So, but I think it's much needed. And why is it much needed in this movement? I think that it's much needed in this particular community I want to say, not movement, but community. The reason that I think it's so needed in this community is because of the fact that we are losing so many people. And if you want to ever become a movement, if you want to ever become a cohesive unit that fights for equality, then you have to end the oppression. You have to end the self-doubt. You have to end the suicide situations now. So that way we can build the numbers that we actually need in order to make this a good fight. Numbers do actually mean something in this community. And in order to obtain those numbers, number one, we have to stop the suicides. Number two, the reason that we have to stop the suicides is because we have children out there that are growing up without a biological parent in their lives. Absolutely, the most depressing thing that you can do to a society is to take parents away from their children. So we have seen the effects of that. We have seen it over the years. We've seen it in the 1970s, through the progression through the 80s, through the 90s to today. You have to look no further than the south side of Chicago to see the effects of taking a parent out of the home. That's very apparent. High crime rate, high teen suicide rate, high teen pregnancy rates. We see this over and over and over again. And I've come to this realization that this movement, or this community, in order to go further, we have to end the suicides. So when we're talking about the suicide situation, it's absolutely apparent that we need to get this taken care of and we need to get it out there. That's why we chose this particular topic tonight. Because it is so absolutely important, and this broadcast is going to be completely interactive. So as we speak right here, I have an actual laptop set up, and I'll have this set up every single week. And I just actually saw the last comment here by Ryan Swindle, tired of the suicides being worn by this movement as a badge of honor. Yes, absolutely. Shannon Marie, it's time. Absolutely. Randy Davis, rev it up. Absolutely, brother. Excuse me, I'm still dealing with the cold, by the way. But what we're going to do on Talking Normal is we are going to start off, and let me start off in this way. I'm going to give you the format of what we believe would be an interactive show, which would help each and every one of you out there. Each week, I will come on as the main host, and I will have a surprise guest host for you. Each and every week could be someone new. Could be this week, we have Maria Aris. Could be this week, I've got Chris Odom on the line. Could be next week, I've got Mark Ludwig. It could be anyone. That surprise is going to keep you tuned in, because it could be anyone. Who knows? Who knows who that surprise guest could be? But then we're also going to talk about panelists. We're going to do this as a roundtable discussion. We're going to pick a particular topic. Let's say I want to have 4 people on to talk about the corruption in the state of Tennessee. Let's say I want to have 4 people who are lawyers or attorneys, and have 4 attorneys come on and talk about what should you look for in an attorney? What are questions that you should ask your attorney? What are good indicators that your attorney is not really working for you? These are all great questions and things that we can bounce off of each other in order that we can get some good particular answers to go off of, and so it will be ultimately helpful for you. Excuse me. That's what this is all about. Is we want to be so interactive that we're helping you with what your questions are that you're going through in this community. So that's what this different format really is all about. It's about talking normal. It's about living normal. It's about fighting normal. It's about doing things in a normal, active way, because I think a lot of the people in the movement that we deal with, um, I use that movement word too loosely. I need to say community, but the people that we deal with in this community, a lot of the times, and I was told this when I first came in the movement, is that 30% of the people that you deal with in this movement are over emotional, and that's really harming them and keeping them from obtaining their children back. And what we want to do is we want to reach out to you. If you are over emotional, if you're going through some of these emotions, excuse me, some of these emotions in the movement and or community, and you need to make a change. You need to make a real change in how you do things dynamically, and maybe you don't even know that you need to make that change yet. But it's going to be more and more apparent each and every week that you can make that change. You can be empowered. You can fight for your case. You can fight for your children, and you can still do it not being overly emotional. You can do it in a way that's productive and empowering and helping not only yourself but other people, because the true sense in this community, and I'll get down to this, one of my true mentors, Kerry Speedman, told me when I first came in this a long time ago. He told me, look, when you reach a point in which you love the person next to you's children just as much as you love your own children, now you have done something. Now you know what this community is all about. This community is about reaching out, helping other people. In helping other people, you help yourself. So I know I lost Chris, and that's fine. She can call back in here if she has a question here. I'm going to go ahead and bring Maria in here and unmute Maria here. And Maria, I know that you gave me some great statistics and great stats and things behind the scenes with suicide prevention. If you are feeling down and depressed and you're going through suicide, I want to go ahead and keep giving you this number throughout the broadcast tonight: 1-800-273-8255. And those people are out there. I know that there's a lot of myths that are going around, that those people out there are not really going to help you. They're going to send you off to somebody else, or they're going to maybe call the police and have them show up to your house or something like that. Look, these people are trained professionals. They are here to help you. That's what they do 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, is to try and help people. And that's what we are in this for, is to help people. Excuse me. Maria, as well, I know that when you were digging up some of these statistics, what are some of the things that you saw that may have kind of shocked you or stepped out and kind of made an impression or a dent on you with suicide prevention out there?
I think one of the biggest things was the fact that I did not realize how many resources were available, not only to those who were in this state of mind, but also the people around them, their family, their friends. There's resources for them to help. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize that, because at one time we had a situation and we lacked resources because I didn't know where to look. Exactly. And lo and behold, I was surprised at all of the available resources to the family to help them get the help they need.
Excuse me. Yeah, there are a lot of resources out there, definitely, and I know, especially with the veteran community, and I'll just kind of show you what I use each and every time that I have a call for suicide. I always kind of grab this. It's like a quick series suicide prevention guide, and I always grab this, and it was given to me at the local VA. The Veterans Administration out there, and I always kind of keep this on me, but I really never have sat back and read a lot of the other stuff except for, the things to ask and things like that. So it actually says in here, every 16 minutes, a suicide occurs in the United States. No less than 6 other people are intimately affected by the losses. A sad fact is that some of those who are affected by suicide of a loved one may follow their actions. So this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about suicide prevention is the so-called copycat effect. Is that when we see one, sometimes we see another and another and another, and it especially for an advocate like myself, Maria, I don't know about yourself and how long you've been in this part. I know that you've helped with civil rights for a long time, but I know for myself, being an advocate in this movement for 10 years, I can tell you I take it pretty personally when I see a suicide, because it's one of those people that I could have helped, I could have touched, I could have talked to and talked out of those things. What are your feelings on that, as well as being an advocate in this or in civil rights yourself?
I've never really had to deal with it on the civil rights aspects. It was more on a personal level. A lot of times people, they can't handle the death of a loved one,
Right.
and they become so overwhelmed with, especially if it's a tragic, unexpected death.
Right.
They can't cope with it, and then start hearing a lot of, I just want to be with them, and because I should have this or I should have that, the guilt eats at them to the point where they become suicidal.
Exactly.
That's where the experience that I've dealt with as an advocate. I've not done a whole lot in the movement, but just in general, I've seen it where a lot of times it's either drug related or because they've lost someone tragically and we're not prepared for it. And
Exactly.
it's heart-wrenching when families feel like their hands are tied, or friends when they can't do anything, or they don't know where to turn.
Right. Exactly. And we've got some other callers on the line here with us as well. And I know a lot of people don't like to show their faces, and that's fine. That's not a problem. And I'm going to try and unmute this here. But it looks like right now I've got Jenny Pipkin on the line. Jenny, how are you doing this evening? I don't know if I can hear her or not. Jenny, are you still there?
I'm here.
Okay.
Are you there?
Yes,
Hey.
I sure am. We are
Hey, Jay, how's it going?
going fantastic. And I know that maybe you wanted to chime in on this. Obviously, I mean, we've got suicides that happen a lot in this community, and it's an unfortunate event. And I know that we've got help out there in several sources, in several different ways. What are some of your feelings on some of the suicides that already have taken place, and some of the things that we can do to help, obviously, in dealing with suicide in this particular community?
I haven't personally, I mean, I've seen the suicides. I don't personally know people who have become victims of it.
Right.
I know that as a community as a whole, we've got to come together and become closer, have more face-to-face meetings, which is something that PASA is working on right now.
Right. Cool.
So, just being there and being present for people. I think it's one thing to have.
You still there? I don't know if I lost her or not. Is everybody still there?
I'm still here.
I am.
Okay. I might have a source out there here with Jenny. Unfortunately, sometimes we have some of these technical difficulties on this, and we're going to upgrade the Zoom broadcaster as well to make sure that we can take phone calls in the future as well. It's definitely one of the steps that we want to do, because we want to get as many people on here as possible and talk about some of these issues as a round table, as a community. And I think that there's a lot of people going through some of these steps, and maybe they may not know some of the things that people go through. Chris, are you still there?
Yes.
Okay. So I've got Chris Odom out there, and Chris, I know that you've dealt with and know a lot of people out there who have ended their own lives, unfortunately. What are some of the things that you would like to say as one of the advocates who've been in this movement a very, very long time, helping people? And what are some of the things that you might want to say to someone who might be on the ledge tonight?
Well, if they're on the ledge tonight, I would want them to reach out and grab the phone number you provided and call. But I see a lot of suicides of people coming out of addiction. My son is addiction, and he's been clean for a few months, but it's been a roller coaster for years for me. So I just keep praising him. But, when he does go back and crash and goes back out there, he's very suicidal, especially when he's coming down. He's really all there, and he can project himself to the police or whoever that he's a danger to them. And that's not it at all. He's very suicidal. His mind is just down. So I'd like to see more reach out with that as well, because there's not a lot of reach out when these people are coming off of drugs, or there's not a reach out actually when people are dealing with CPS. I've had a lot of people commit suicide dealing with that, and I just think there needs to be more resources.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to repeat that number again, 1-800-273-8255. And I know that that's a great big number out there that really can help a lot of people. And I think some of the things that we should talk about is suicide warning signs. I think that those are very big, and I'm going to kind of point those out as soon as I can grab my glasses here, because some of the writing is a little small here, and I'm getting old, and I got to put my glasses on. But obviously, when we're talking about wanting to die or wanting to kill oneself, and I don't say it in that way because I don't think that there's a lot of people out there that say it in that way. And I always ask the question, much as a professional would. And I always ask them, do you think that you may be a risk to yourself or someone else at this particular time? I think it's very important to find that out right off the bat, because it may change over the course of the conversation. I think over the course of the conversation that you have with them, and I always say, make yourself available and listen. That's the biggest thing. You are there to listen to them. You're not there to tell them how their life needs to improve, how they need to do this, how they need to do that. You're there to listen. That's the biggest thing that I can tell you in dealing with a lot of suicides myself in this community. Be a listening board. That's all a lot of people need in this community is, maybe they're not even suicidal. Maybe they're just depressed. Maybe they're going through some issues and problems that they can figure out themselves as they're talking to you, that maybe they're not really suicidal. Maybe they're just very depressed and they need to work out their issue or their problem. They can do that by talking to you. Having someone to talk to is the biggest thing. Be open, be responsive, but also be a listener and be more attentive to listening and paying attention. The best thing that you can do, because I know a lot of people out there say, okay, well, I'm just going to listen to somebody and I'll just sit there and I'll listen. There's a difference between hearing and listening. And that's the biggest thing that I want to describe to you. You need to hear what they're saying. So repeat it back to them and say, okay, yeah, you're having issues with this or this or this. I think that that tells them that you're paying attention to what they have to say. And it looks like we're maybe clocking or logging or whatever it is. Facebook loves to do that kind of thing, where they kind of shut us down. Okay, so that's number one thing. You need to be a big listener, and you need to ask the direct question. Is there anything that you're going to do that makes you a harm right now to yourself or someone else? Do you feel like you are a harm to yourself or someone else? That's the biggest question that you can ask right then and there. Now you need to lead on from there. Okay, what is the issues? What are the problems? And warning signs like this. Have you been looking for ways to end your life? That's a good question to ask. Maybe they already have it planned out in their mind, and if they have it all planned out, that's another big red flag that tells you, hey, look, that's a situation. If you get like 2 or 3 red flags here, that's when you may need to start thinking about, okay, I need to call the authorities. Normally, I would say try to refrain from calling the authorities if you can, just because I think a lot of the times depression is a factor here where we say, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and call the police, and that could cause somebody much more issues and rifts and problems than actually, you helping them or not helping them. So I would say that be cautious in calling authorities and that kind of thing. I would say that's a big thing. Be very cautious in that. And then I would also ask those questions, and I would say, hey, look, I need to know, have you thought about this? Have you planned on this? And then you need to ask, if they have feelings of hopelessness. Do they have feelings of self-doubt that their life is ever going to be anything? Those are really big signs and big indicators that they are suffering through depression, that they've got a depression issue, and either a depression or an anxiety issue. Anxiety would be more the form of, okay, well, I've got to go to court and I'm freaking out constantly. Whereas depression would be more along the lines of, I'm never going to dig myself out of this hole that I put myself in, or somebody else has put me in, and I don't think it's ever going to go anywhere. I think it's a big thing where people need to start really thinking and paying attention and listening to other people. Look for signs such as people giving things away, people not caring about certain things any longer that they once cared about a lot. Let's say we've got a very artistic and creative person. If that person suddenly no longer cares about artistic and creative things any longer, that might be a red flag. If they're giving away items, well, that's a good indicator as well. A big myth that you may hear out there is that, well, so-and-so didn't commit suicide because they didn't leave a note. I've dealt with so many suicides, it's not even funny. And I can tell you that 75% or more do not leave a note. They do not leave a note. So that's a fabrication. That a lot of people will leave a note. And let me tell you this, that there's a lot of people who feel a lot of pain. You're going through this, especially within this community. Maria, I know that you have gone through this personally in your family, and some of the things that you've dealt with. How is that on the side of being behind or left behind in the wake of someone doing that?
It's devastating. There's a lot of, what if I did this? Looking for signs. There's a lot of what ifs that go with it. They think the family or the friends think that they could have done something because they missed the signs. They didn't see it coming because they weren't prepared for it.
Right.
And so in addition to the grieving, they're also dealing with the what ifs and the guilt that goes with it. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to handle.
Yes. Yeah, I can only imagine. And I've, excuse me, I've dealt with several people in this community over the years that are no longer here. And it's a big devastating blow even to those people who are advocates in this movement, because, and I say movement again, I keep catching myself, community. I think that you have to become a community before you can become a movement. And as you can see, I'm still dealing with a lot of cold issues, but I think you have to become a community before you can become a movement. And how do you become a community is you care about the people that are around you. You care about their moral fiber. You care about their day-to-day activities. You care about the things that they care about, their children. You care about their case. You caring about what they go through means so much to these people that are going through it right now. And I'll tell you, there's so many people going through the depression, the anxiety, and some of the things that, people don't understand on the so-called normal platform. I think that there's a lot of people out there that just don't get it. And here's why you just don't get it. Imagine that someone walks into your home. You have 2 children, and someone comes and they walk in your home, they take your 2 children, they leave you, and then they say, I'm going to collect money out of your paycheck every month to take care of these children, but you'll never get to see them. Now you're financially devastated to the point that you are living on ramen noodles sometimes, that you're living on PB&Js, and you hardly have the money to pay for yourself. And all of your income, for the most part, is going to take care of these 2 children that you never get to see anymore. That can be so devastating for people. And then on top of that, let's say, for instance, you get behind in that situation where they were going to collect money from you. Somehow you lost your job or whatever it may be. And now you're behind on child support or whatever it may be. Right? And they're going to threaten you with incarceration. They're going to take your driver's license from you. They're going to do everything they can to oppress you. Now you're getting a solemn whole of a circumstance in which someone has been put into, in which they end their lives. And it's because of the oppression. And I call this no less than second-degree murder by our courts and by those authorities out there who are sitting back idly and not doing something about it when it needs to be done for the American people. I think that it needs to be done. I think it needs to be addressed. I think it has to be addressed. No longer are we saying maybe, sort of, kind of. We're not going to say that anymore. We're going to say, look, you are oppressing the American people. You know this. You know that you're not doing something that's good. You know that you are committing an act of genocide among the American people, and it needs to be stopped. And how it needs to be stopped is we need to start supporting each other as a community. We need to be there. We need to listen to each other, and we need to support one another. We need to end the suicides. How do we end these suicides? We start listening to people. We start listening and caring about them more than we care about, oh, who's going to play, the Bears are going to play the Packers this week. Who cares? Who cares? In the scheme of things, what does that matter over a life? We get into these situations to where we so many times want to sit back and we want to ponder. We want to think, oh, well, my life, what I got to go through, and this person and that person, and I've got to deal with all of these different aspects and scenarios. Okay, what about the next guy? What about the next gal? What do they have to deal with? Maybe they're eating a PB&J out of the back seat of a car, sleeping in a car tonight. Maybe they're like I was 2 years ago, or 3 years or 4. It's been a while. Maybe they're sitting there collecting mushrooms and berries and living on a park bench. Been there, done that. And let me tell you something, it's not good. It's not conducive for us to sit back as a society and say, oh, that's okay, as long as his kids are taken care of. No, that's not right, especially when the mother has a $60,000 a year job or whatever. The primary principle is, yes, these are your children, these are your offspring, you should have to take care of them, but the government should not have to tell you how you have to take care of them. And your life has been oppressed. Now you're not living in a two-person economy any longer. You're living in a one-person economy, trying to take care of what you were with a couple. And that's just not going to work in the average household. So people need to start realizing these facts. Okay. And I think that we have to, as a society, we have to come together. And if we're going to end the suicides, it's because we're going to start listening and we're going to start understanding what people are going through. That's the biggest thing that I can tell you right now is people need to start listening and understanding what people are going through. It might not be your road. It might not be my road, but someone else's road is different than yours, and you need to start paying attention to what they're going through. Okay? So now that we kind of addressed that a little bit, we've addressed some of the factors, some of the things that you can do. I'm going to open things up a little bit, and we're going to talk about this because it's interactive. And I'll start reading down through the chat here. Randy Davis says, I couldn't feel happy or be excited about anything. Sorry, I'm going to close that. I get messages at the same time. When they had Shy, yeah. I was actually angry a little as I watched others having fun. While I was in the worst pain I ever felt, I didn't let it show. And I think a lot of people go through that, Randy, and I 100% agree with you. I feel guilty a lot of the times. I don't post a lot of pictures of me with my children because I have my children. I fought for my children. I have my children back in my life. After not having them for 2 years, I fought hard and I won. And I'm continuing to win. But I'm telling you, I don't post a whole lot of pictures of that because I know there's a lot of people out there who deal with this, and them not being able to see their children, it kind of does make me feel a little bit guilty, showing some pictures that, everybody's situation is different though. And we need to start listening. That's the biggest thing. Start listening. Maria, what are some of your thoughts on that? I mean, I know that there's lots of people out there that are dealing with this, right? The depression, the anxiety, the even sometimes a lot of this is attributed to PTSD, especially among soldiers. We have 17 veterans a day that are committing suicide because of the family court system. On average, 17 veterans a day. That's just an astounding number from where I'm sitting, Maria, right?
Well, I think it's a horrible number to hear.
Yeah.
Considering the fact that they fight so hard for this nation and they should be better cared for. I live right outside of Fort Bragg, and we had several of them when they came back from deployment, first deployment over to Afghanistan, and it was happening left and right. And they were debriefed for about an hour. It wasn't enough. We had suicides and we had murder suicides. It went rampant. But when it comes to families, we have to remember the moment a child is removed from their parents, the emotions begin. From that very moment, if we as advocates are going to be helping these families, we need to do our homework. We need to be prepared for that emotional roller coaster ride that they're going to go through, and have a wealth of information at our fingertips to be able to assist them. If you're not going to do the homework, you're not going to do the work to make sure that you can work with them safely, then you shouldn't be doing it at all. You have to be careful what you say, what you do, how you respond. All of it encompasses in maintaining their ability to fight for their children. If you're just helping them get through the system, but you're not taking care of the emotional part because you're not prepared and you didn't do your homework, then you're going to end. What if something goes terribly wrong in the process? You're not prepared for this family. So that's just I think you have to have the resources available to you. And so the community has to take care of each other. You have to teach each other. You have to work together. And you have to do your own homework.
Right. I absolutely agree with that. And I'm going to open up the whole lines here. And I know I've got Maria and Chris still here and Jenny. And I'm going to open up all of the lines here as well as we do this as a round table. And we'll kind of discuss this and talk about this because advocates in this movement, this is a big one. Advocates in this movement, when you have someone who is coming to you, I think that you can be detrimental sometimes too when you're promising or making a promise that you cannot fulfill. Let's say, for instance, I'm at the point where I don't know where I can do anything or whatever. Hey, can you help me? Can you help me write my briefs? Can you help me, or can you show up in court and represent me? I think that's a big thing where a lot of our people out there are maybe leaning in a very wrong direction when we're saying, hey, I can write your stuff for you, or I can show up in court and represent you, when that's actually an attorney's job. And we're kind of overstepping those bounds. And I won't say kind of, I think we really are overstepping those bounds when we say, hey, I can show up to court for you, or hey, I can write your briefs, I can write your motions or your affidavits. I just don't, I think that we get in a situation right here where we're maybe, and I don't even say maybe at this point, I think that we really do cross those lines of being an advocate and being an attorney. I want some of you guys' thoughts on that line that's being crossed.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah.
Hey, I just wanted to say, I don't really consider myself an advocate, but I do have a really big heart, and I'm really much involved in, work, just on the guidelines. What I personally do myself is, I never offer to do any of that because, one, I don't think I have the experience to do that. But what I do is I give them as much knowledge as I know. And also I direct them into areas to advocates that I know that have more experience than me. Never do I just leave them. Never do I get their story and say, oh, well, I'm sorry, I do my very best to give them as much as resources that I can. And actually, I've had, a couple of families come back and thank me just for what knowledge that I know. They took that without going with anybody else. And I didn't represent them or, because I'm not an attorney, but they used what knowledge I gave them and it worked. They were in and out, but never do I go out of bounds there and do something I absolutely have no knowledge about how to do this and, the briefs and all that. I think that is setting somebody up if you're not really an attorney, and now if they want to go pro se, I think y'all both can study together, but I personally would never offer to write it for them.
Right.
But I just wanted to tell you that I have lots of resources and lots of beautiful advocates that I truly believe in, and that's where I go with it,
Awesome. I think that's great. And I think that that's really what a lot of advocates really are doing. We're basically leading a horse to water. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And that's really the biggest thing that we do as advocates here is we don't practice law. We may say, hey, look, friend to friend advice. I've kind of gone through this before, and here's what I would do as if I was in your situation. And here's maybe something that's helpful out there on the internet. Take it, use it if you want to, those kind of things. But I don't think that you can ever get into you have to do this and you got to do it this way. And this is the structure. And if you don't do this, then, that becomes a very, very big hindrance to people. And I think that sometimes can harm people where you say, oh, well, I know this lawyer so-and-so, give me some money and I'll take care of this and I'll have them show up. And okay, what happens if they don't show up? Now you are on the line, and what ends up happening is these people get so depressed because they gave so-and-so money, and then when that whole thing happens and it goes down in a very spiraling way, what ends up happening is we have people who are very suicidal because of the fact that they have given all of their resources. This was their last hope. This was something that they believed in. So they really thought that this was going to go somewhere. And then obviously now they're taking it back to where they're about to end their lives. They've well planned it out. I've had several people who have been on the line with me who've had guns to their head over certain situations like that. And excuse me. And I think that, we've got to do things very kosher in this movement. And I say that in a very Jewish complex way, but I think that this is a situation where you have to rest on what your morals and your principles and your standards tell you to do, because a lot of this in the movement, and if you're not set on your morals and your principles and your standards, and you will kind of let those go by the wayside for certain people. Look, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And I completely believe that. And I think that you being more like rubber instead of being like iron is not helping anyone. You've got to stick to your guns. If you draw a line in the sand and you say, I'm not going to cross that line, and you do cross that line, it affects other people down the line in this community a lot more than you know. And so that's why I'm saying a lot of this is because sometimes the things that we do lead people to a direction that they don't need to be in, or an uncomfortable situation they don't need to be in. And in addressing this situation, I know I'm going to have some people who don't like these things that I'm saying. I'm going to have some people who really love some of the things that I'm saying because they need to be addressed. And I understand that it's controversial and it's a topic that people don't want to always address. But I think that it needs to be addressed. There are some people out there that really need to hear that, yes, there are people still in this community that have morals and standards, and they're going to go by those morals and standards. And it looks like I've got somebody else on this line here, and it's an attendee, and it won't let me bring them in for some odd reason. But okay, so when we're talking about, again, when we're talking about this controversial topic, and I'm going to go read some more notes here very, very shortly. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-8255. And let's go here and read a few of the comments here. Again, Randy says principles are all you have at some point in the case. Yes, absolutely. Joined in the middle of the exact topic. The exact topic tonight is suicide and suicide prevention, especially among this community. Let's see here. I've had so many false promises. I've had just given up. Yeah, Ryan, I think that there's a lot of people out there like you, that there's people out there who have experienced a lot, who've been in this for a while, and we put our faith in certain people and they let us down, unfortunately. People are human. People are not God. People are not Jesus Christ. They don't walk on water. They don't make loaves and fishes for everybody to eat. They don't perform miracles. Advocates don't perform miracles either. Understand that when one of my mentors told me it takes him at least 100 hours to get in and dive into a case and find out exactly where people are in that case. I agree with that, but I would probably say for me, it probably takes me about 120 to 150 because I want to know every single detail of what was said with who and where and why and when and how. So I 150% agree with that. So if any good advocate is out there, look, if somebody tells you they're an advocate and they tell you they can do 40 or 50 cases in a year, I'm sitting back here and I've never had or been a part of a team of any organization that could do 40 to 50 cases in 1 year. Maybe some attorneys can because they have a team of paralegals and they can do 40 or 50 cases in a year. They're probably, and these are trained professionals. That's what they do as a living every single day. Maybe they handle 50, 60 to 100, depending on the firm, a year. But you're talking somebody who says that they're an advocate and they've done 40 to 60 cases in a year. It's just not possible. It's just not possible. If you're putting 100, if you're putting 100 hours into every single case, it's just not possible. And I tell you this to be honest with you, and I think that there's a lot of people who are out there that won't be honest with you. They'll tell you something that's not true. But I think suicide and suicide prevention is one of the biggest things. Why is it such a big thing? Again, let's review that. If this community is going to become a movement, we need the numbers. That's number one. We need the numbers. So protecting the sanctity of human life is absolutely apparent for this community to become a movement. Number two, we have to think of the human life that is lost. That is, and that should really be number one in the order of things, in the scheme of things. The human life that is lost is absolutely atrocious. It's awful. What children have to go through growing up without a parent in their lives ever. and understand when we say some of these things and we empower a lot of you guys out there and we're going through some of this stuff, it's because we know that, let's say 18 years from now, let's say that son or daughter is a month old, okay, and you've lost custody, and okay, but 18 years from now, that child's going to come looking. They're going to want to know who their parent was and why things have happened the way they have. You're not going to be there in 18 years if you give up. Don't give up. Be that light at the end of the tunnel that you want to see. And so that's why we're encouraging a lot of you is because we know those children will come looking for you. That's just how things are. Things are the way they are for a particular reason in life, and children act the way that they act in a particular way because they're curious. Their curiosity has gotten to them at 18 years old. You're on your curious time. You want to know what life is all about. You want to experience things. And hey, I have a mom or a dad out there, and I want to know who they are. Guess what? Here's your perfect opportunity. 18 years old, you're going to do it. I can guarantee you will. You'll want to know who that is. So stick in there, stick in the fight, and be that person who's there for those people. You know, and I'm going to read through some of the other stuff. And definitely, Maria, what are some of the encouraging things that obviously you can say? Some of the things that, you know, people out there that are going through these difficult situations right now, and they're really thinking about tonight might be my last night on earth. What would you tell them right now?
Oh, geez, it just depends on the person and where they're at and what they're going through at the moment. You know, when they're fighting for their kids, the biggest thing is there's somebody there for them. They're not alone. I'm here to listen. Let's get you through the night. You know, you can't, for me, I feel like you got to take it moment by moment, because if you try to say, oh, well, tomorrow's another day. No, you got to get them through the night. That's, you know, so it's just the constant encouragement that they're not alone. Somebody's here to listen to them. We'll work together. We'll bring somebody else on. That's the biggest thing, is if people are taking on more than they can chew, and their case goes in a direction where they're not familiar, they don't know how to handle it, ask for help and tell them, hey, okay, well, let's talk to someone else. Let's bring someone else that may know more, that may have a fresh idea. There's nothing better than a set of fresh eyes to look at a case and see where that direction can go. Randy and I, we worked on a case together. Mm-hmm. I was I took care of the emotional needs for this mom, while he took care of the advocacy part, because obviously he has the wealth of experience. I'm a civil rights person. This was all new to me. And she even said to me, my God, if it wasn't for you, you kept me on an even keel. You kept me going. You kept me, fighting, because she would just get so distraught and so emotional. And it's like, well, hey, bring someone else on. A lot of times that's encouraging to them when they know, oh, wait, maybe somebody else has a better idea. Maybe something else will work. You just never know. But they just have to know somebody is there. And I've had this mom call me at 3:00 in the morning. Mm-hmm. If you're going to take on a case, you got to be prepared for those 3:00 in the morning phone calls where I can't take it. I don't know what to do, because they get so emotional. Their thought process goes out of whack. You have to find ways to just communicate effectively based on their personality. That's the other thing, is reading their personality and understanding them and who they are, where their emotions are going, and try to bring them back, try to settle them down. But the most important thing is make sure you have resources in the event that what you're saying is not working.
That's exactly right.
You can, work with them. Like, would you like for me to call someone to see if we can help you? They don't have to do it by themselves. You can walk them through whatever assistance you may bring in, whether it be for the suicidal mind or whatever. You don't say, I'm going to call the police. Would you like me to call someone? Who would you like me to call?
Right.
Let them have control. They need to have some of that control because, for one, they have no control at this point.
Right.
That's
Right.
my feeling. That's the way I would handle it. That's the way I've dealt with it in my own situation where, like I said, we had a tragic loss and they couldn't handle it.
Exactly.
I put the control back in her hands. And
Right.
she's the one who said, you know, can you do this? Can you do that? Can we do, you know, so you can suggest things, but like you said, don't shove it down their throat.
Exactly. And I think that I'll say this, our response is just so quick to call the authorities a lot of the times. And I think that you're right. We put it on that person to say, hey, look, are you a risk to yourself or other people at this particular point in time? And I think that's where you can assess for yourself whether or not this person is actually going to do something that's not conducive right now, something that could be harmful to themselves or someone else. That's where you would draw the line to say, hey, I'm going to make a phone call or not make a phone call that needs to be made. The other option is in talking to people, you're right, assessing their attitude. Knowing them is always a good thing, because there are some certain people that I've talked with that their attitude, maybe they need to know someone cares and someone listens. And then there's other people who need a pep talk. And those are the people that, you know, are really needed. And then there are some people who are wild-eyed and witty-haired like me that just need a swift kick in the pants and say, hey, look, you know, it's time to pick up your big boy pants and put them on and get to work. And there are different responses for different people, and knowing those responses is half the battle. Knowing how you can talk to those people, how and what, and that does not come easy. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of experience in knowing what you can and cannot say to certain people. And my suggestion is always to give the caring first, give the empowerment second, and then if you have to, give a swift kick in the rear end, and that's the last resort. And then if it goes beyond that, then it's time for you to make a call to the authorities, because this has become a professional issue in which you cannot or are not equipped to handle, put it that way. There are trained professionals for a reason. There are people who give Zoloft and those kind of things for a particular reason. There are chemical imbalances that go on in the human brain, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that everybody thinks that somehow there must be mentally something wrong with that, that people go through these experiences and they need something for a period of time. And now, if you become reliant on that, maybe there's an issue there. But that is for you and for the doctors to decide. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to claim that. This would be like me coming and telling you legal advice. I'm not an attorney. Why would I give you legal advice? That's just ridiculous. So anyone giving you that, take it with a grain of salt. Take it with a grain of salt. It is what it is. And definitely, yes, do not be judgmental. That's a big thing. I know Lori Nicholson mentioned that. Obviously, do not be judgmental. People are going through a different scenario than what you're going through. Absolutely, 100%. Exactly. We're not doctors and attorneys, correct? Absolutely. And I think doctors and attorneys are trained professionals for a particular reason. They went to school for that. And so that's that's their ball of wax to do. And right now we're just here and understand what the term advocate means. It means to advise. I'm here to advise and help people in any way that I possibly can. It does not mean that I'm here to practice law. It does not mean that I'm here to be a doctor to you. or assess your mental needs. I'm here to advise, and that's it. Person to person, not legal. Okay. All right. So I think we're getting into our halftime of our show here, and I'm going to go ahead and get into the birthdays and anniversaries, or excuse me, birthdays and anniversaries. I always say that. Birthdays and events here. So I'm going to play this real quick. Okay, and then for some reason, it looks like it's really, really lagging behind here in the time. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into the events and the birthdays here as soon as I can get my list here to pull up. Here we go. And it looks like Wednesday, September the 9th, Americans for Equal Share Parenting in Texas, Capitals for Kids tour in Austin, Texas, 6 p.m. at the Crown Plaza in Austin, Texas. Wednesday, September the 19th, court corruption protests. That will be held at the City Hall of San Jose. See Jennifer Celia for more details. Saturday, September 22nd, that's Parents Against Parental Alienation Motorcycle Run. That'll be at 11 a.m., 400 Carlton Avenue, Central Islip, New York, and that will be put on by Carlos Rivera. See him for more details. September the 26th, Capitals for Kids in Concord. That will be Wednesday, 5 p.m. See Americans for Equal Share Parenting in New Hampshire for more details. October the 3rd, Capitals for Kids in Orlando. That'll be Wednesday, 4:30 p.m. See Americans for Equal Share Parenting Florida for more details. Looks like October the 7th, Capitals for Kids will be in St. Louis, Missouri. Sunday, 4 p.m., Orlando Gardens Banquet and Conference Center. See Americans for Equal Share Parenting Missouri for more details. October the 27th, 22nd, Capitals for Kids in Trenton. Monday at 5 p.m. See Americans for Equal Share Parenting New Jersey for more details. And why you see me leaning in as I'm trying to read here. So October the 23rd will be Capitals for Kids in Philadelphia at that'll be Tuesday, 5 p.m. See Americans for Equal Share Parenting Pennsylvania for more details. Birthdays, we've got Gina Simmons, Heather Wall, Davian Plowright, Warren Brinson, Angela Pettykoff, Vincent Valentino, and Carla Johnson. And it also looks like Gabriella Poole. Wednesday, Dwayne Dykma, Kimberly DeYoung, Dawn Chamberlain, Melissa Draper, Shayna Marie, Norma Brown, Robin Yates, William Schrantz, Brina Norwood, Richard Winchester. Thursday will be Christopher Emmanuel, Jamie Starr, Darren Williamson, Christopher Rainbolt, Darren Lockwood, Melissa Coral, Alan Balker, Kim Moore, Courtney King, Michelle James, Jen Fitzgerald, Clara Capita, Jan Smith. Friday will be Tanya Nunley, Travis Hopkins, Melody Burke, Jim Gibney, Angela Trotton, Natalie Allman. Saturday will be Karen Murphy, Lori Dennis, Marlene Guy, Amber Ostrom, Christy Needham, Tom Carr, Rachel Perkman, Rhonda Marie, Jude Strange, Lori May, Dylan Wyckoff. Sunday will be Robin Moore, Trestra Hiddleston, Cheryl Bullock, Samantha Little, Brenda Brunell Atkins, Gary Heilson, excuse me, Nicole Gainey, Robert McDury, Jennifer Bullock, Monica Strand, Christian Holm, Lori Debates, Lori Davis, Phil Salai, Shelly Grigoff, David Laban. Monday will be Shanna Carter, Misty Beck, Mario Bueno, John DeCourt, Janet White, Debbie Starling, Alan Carmen, Scott Dickinson, and Susan Carrington. Wow, that was a very, 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 very long list this week. So also a big happy birthday out there early to Laura Thompson's son. Laura Thompson's son will be turning 18. His name is Connor Jacob William Thompson. It is definitely her baby boy. Will be turning 18 on September the 29th. So big happy birthday out there to all of those who are having birthdays. And we wish you nothing but the best. Absolutely have a wonderful birthday. This is your birthday. Celebrate it in your birthday suit for all like here, hey, just have a great day. That's the main thing. And Talking Normal is copywritten, and duplication of the audio, visual, or transcription of the broadcast is strictly prohibited without the express written consent of the board from Talking Normal and the directors of the board. So those out there celebrating a birthday, happy birthday to you. And also understand that we are going to be having people, particularly with Team TNT, and that's what we've called our team here. It's Team TNT. We'll be out there conducting interviews, and you'll see them out there very, very soon, very, very shortly. We're working with several people. We have several different people in mind, but we are also looking for people. Really, really strong people who are willing to work, are dedicated, and really are looking to help people out there. This is what we're out here doing each and every week. We're out here trying to help people by giving them information, by giving them education, and by giving them empowerment. That's what this is all about. So if you are interested in that, definitely send me a line at Talking Normal on Facebook. We will definitely get in touch with you. Our board of directors will shortly be voting on each and every single member who is associated with the show to make sure that we've got the best team possible. And then this board of directors will definitely be helping us do that. Everything that we do is going to be strictly with the board of directors with this particular show. And I think that is absolutely crucial because of the fact of transparency, number one. Number two, those groups that are on the board of directors actually are doing the work. They're out there. Some of them are actually in Washington, D.C. as we speak. So that's what's going on. And so we want to support and help those people who are doing the work out there each and every single day. So definitely, Maria, I know that you're kind of new on the team, so we're definitely happy and willing and able out there to help a lot of people. And I know this week We chose this particular topic of suicide prevention because I know it's near and dear to me. I know it's near and dear to you as well, having a family member who's ended their lives by suicide. So we want to get into kind of talking about some of these things, and definitely those people who are out there. Again, I'm going to give you the number one more time: 1-800-273-8255. 1-800-273-8255 is a suicide prevention line. That's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline out there. For those of you who are out there and need that lifeline, definitely do not hesitate to call. We need you around. We need you to stick around in this. And Maria, I want to ask you, as far as a team is concerned, let's ask that question right off the bat here. And as far as a team is concerned, I know that you're excited and willing to help in any way possible to get this team up and rolling. I'm open, always open to suggestion and bringing suggestion before the board of what direction we can go. And I think that is one thing that I want to ask you right off the bat is what direction as a advocacy group that really is using social media to its utmost, like we're doing right now through Zoom. What are some of the aspects that you think that you'd like to see us go into? Because I'm always open and willing to hear what the team has to say.
Well, considering I'm the newbie to the whole advocacy thing, we can thank Mr. Randy Davis. He likes to get me into all kinds of trouble. I definitely would love to see experience what some of these parents have experienced along the road. I think that that's important. You need to bring the human factor into the movement.
Right.
I think that's lacking from what I have seen.
Yeah.
We need to hear more on a personal level what the families are going through, the struggles, the fight, where they've been, where they hope to go.
Exactly.
Because when you invite these families on, the ones that are mainly the parents, you know,
Right.
of course you have to protect their integrity of their case, but it would give an education to the advocates out there, but it also brings the human spirit back into the movement. I don't see any human spirit in the movement whatsoever. So I think I'd like to see the show try to bring humanity into it.
Exactly.
If that makes any sense to you.
Exactly.
It just seems it's so lacking because everybody's doing their own thing, working on working on cases. And obviously many of them keep it very, very quiet under the radar to protect the integrity of the case.
Right.
And it makes it very difficult for other advocates to understand the human emotions that go with it. Because like you said, with this being about this, tonight's show is about the suicide. When you omit the emotional and the human side of it, then you become more of a robot.
Exactly.
Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do this. Let's do that. And
Right.
when you're forgetting the most important component, and that's them.
Exactly.
The parents.
Exactly. And I think that you're right. I think you're 100% right. And in saying that, because I think we need to reach out, and we're going to do this. I think we're going to reach out and get some stories out there and talk about the emotional side and the emotional aspect of what people go through on a daily basis. And I think Randy, a lot of the time, summed it up really, really well. Couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't do anything because you felt for your daughter or your son, and those things that you're going through. Those people are your world, and when they're taken away from you, of course you're going to feel very, very emotional, and you're going to have those ties, and you're going to feel the effects of that, like your heart being ripped out from your chest. And those people who've been a part of this really know and understand what that's all like. And Maria, you coming from the civil rights aspect, that really even helps us, because we can say, hey, look, a lot of these, excuse me, a lot of these things are really tied into the civil rights aspect, where we're talking about oppression, where we're talking about a government that does not listen to its people, and are violating its civil rights on a continual basis because of money, of a money factor. This has become not necessarily a war on blacks or whites. This is not a war on men or women. This has become an economy war. This has become using children economically to oppress a parent out of the situation. And in doing so, they're allowed to oppress both parents financially, because the court system is set up in such an adversarial way that allows lawyers, that allows attorneys to gain a whole lot of money, judges to gain a whole lot of money. And I don't say that for every attorney or every judge. There are some very good ones out there too. I don't want you to misconstrue what I'm saying. There are some very good attorneys and there are some very bad ones. There are some very good judges. There are some very bad ones too. And we're going to talk hopefully next week about one of those bad judges in the Tennessee area, and we'll talk about that much more next week. But due process, yes, definitely, Lori. We're going to talk about some of these oppression circumstances that put us in these categories of this book that I carry with me everywhere. If anyone knows how to get a hold of these, I know it's under the Department of Veteran Affairs, Eliana Healthcare Systems, and I've got a national hotline here for veterans as well. It's 1-877-424-3838. That's the National Suicide Hotline for veterans or homeless veterans, excuse me. So definitely give that a call if you're dealing with those situations. I also have this number again, 1-800-273-8255. That is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Getting back to this, when we're talking about suicides and the suicide issues, I want to give you some of these elevated suicide threats here. What puts you in the yellow category, which would be on the lower side? Let's say let's do this like a DEFCON 5 kind of situation here, where you've got the yellow, the orange, the dark orange, and so on. The first level here, we're talking about depression. We're talking about low to moderate threat. Your low to moderate threat on depression. Then your depression plus a recent trigger event makes this a somewhat serious threat that you would commit suicide. Depression plus recent triggered event plus the presence of a weapon would be an even more dangerous threat. And then we've got depression plus recent event plus presence of a weapon plus alcohol equals extreme. So if you have depression, if you have a recent triggered event, been to court, lost your kids, you have the presence of a weapon and you have alcohol, those are recipes for disaster. And if that recipe for disaster is out there, some of those things are not going to be controlled, and you're not able to be in a controlled environment where you're not going to possibly hurt yourself or hurt someone else. So I want you to understand what situation you're putting yourself into, and to seek out help and to talk to people. And those people who are in this community need to be receptive. You need to be listening. You need to be paying attention. And all it takes sometimes to stop a suicide is giving someone a phone call and listening. That's all it takes. That's all it takes.
Jay,
Is someone who cares. Mhm.
Jay, some of the information I gave you also, the area, it also covered the youth. And one of the things that we have to remember too is that these children that have been taken from their parents may also be going through the same thing. And those resources that I provided for you also has a link for the youth.
Yes.
Now, you know, I mean, it's a bit challenging when the kids are in care, but
Right.
if the parents that are able to see their children and are picking up on this somehow or another, I'm not sure how you would recommend it, them getting the resource for the youth available to them. And we can post the link and everything like that so they can have that at their fingertips as well. But I've heard about the suicides or the self-harming that takes place with the children because they don't know what's going on. They can't control. That a lot of times there's abuse within the foster system or in these group homes and things like that. So is that something that we would be able to touch on with the advocates on how to get this information to the parents in order to work on that as well?
Yes, and I think that we will post several of those resources that you sent me. We'll post all of those links on here after the show, so that people can see those, get acquainted with those, and know what those numbers are. And I encourage you to do this. I've got the listing here before me that Maria sent me on all of these different things. They're little cutout cards right here. And you can keep all of these cards right at your desk and at your fingertips so that you have those. And we'll send these out here on the link later. And these things are going to be ultimately helpful for you if you're going through these or you know someone who's going to be going through these. And like you said, yes, definitely teen suicide is a big topic, especially when DCF is involved. I know we had someone out here, Dana, I believe, Lawton, who said, unfortunately, her son has passed. There's been several people who have told me that their son or daughter have been in DCF and they have passed away in DCF service or CPS or the alphabet groups, as we like to call them, because they change their name with every state. But the issue is the care, custody, and control is to the state, and the state has not taken care of the child correctly. And it's unfortunate, but it happens. And we need to get those resources out there to them. Yes, obviously. If there's a way to slip one of these suicide prevention notes to someone who can get it to your child, do it. There's nothing wrong with handing a pamphlet to DCF and saying, hey, make sure that my child has this available to them. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think the court system needs to make this available to the children. If there is a situation they are in fear for their lives or in fear for their safeties, and then they want to take their own life because of it, I think they should have this suicide information available to them. I think that the court system should mandate 100% that these numbers are posted and readily available for children to call if they're in DCFS or CPS custody. I really, truly believe that. And if there's a reason why not, then you need to tell me why a child's life is more important, or why a child's life is not more important than you posting the information so that they can have it, so that they can readily call it if they need to. Because that, to me, is much more neglectful than a parent who may not be able to afford one meal or something, and they skip one meal and they got put in DCF custody. Something so absolutely atrocious, like maybe there may have been some dirty dishes in the sink, and so they take the people's kids. or they heard a baseless accusation, so they took the children from the parents. If that is somehow neglect, then you not posting this information for those children and making it readily accessible, that's neglectful. That's neglectful. And that needs to be taken care of, and it needs to be posted. And I think every single state should have that readily available. And if it's not posted, then that tells me that you don't give a crap about these kids. It's all about the money. That's exactly what it's all about. And I'm excited, though. I'll tell you, getting back on the airwaves and doing this every week is very, very exciting for me to get back into it, and to get back into this. But I'll tell you, this particular subject is heart and soul of what I'm doing, what I'm behind, and it's heart and soul of what our team is going to be about, is to be about stopping and ending these suicides in this movement, or community. I keep catching myself in that word. So yes, Lori says false allegations. Absolutely, there are lots and lots and lots of false allegations. Correct. Let's see here. Dana Lawhorn says he was beaten and raped daily. He couldn't live with the nightmares and he committed suicide. And to this day, the two men responsible are still being protected, even though the law says they have the right to know, and I'm still being denied. Dana, get in contact with me after the show. I'm going to put you in contact with some people that I know, and we'll see what we can do on this end. And I tell you, your story may be one that we may want to air in the future, when you feel comfortable and ready for that. And we'll definitely talk off the air about that, because that's anyone who's in DCF custody and is raped continuously and ends their life with suicide, that's atrocious. And that's a situation where we need law enforcement to do their jobs. And we will make sure that happens at all costs. It's occurred to me that this can be watched later. Oh, well, yeah. If you want to watch it later, that's definitely fine with us. We are definitely out there, and we will be out here every single Tuesday night, 7 p.m. We're going to try and reduce the size down here, maybe to an hour show, possibly. And if we have the aspect to, or the ambition to make this a 2-hour program each and every week, we will definitely do that. I think tonight, the reason we were really trying to stay on the air for a little while is to definitely interact with you and answer questions for sure. Yeah. And Lori Nicholson says she does awesome, Jay. Okay. And like I said, I mean, we will be on the air every single week. We will try and air this out as much as possible, but we're going to get into some different aspects. We're going to get into the corruption, hopefully next week in Tennessee with Judge Guffey. Guffey, I'm putting you on notice. Anyway, just letting you know, we're going to tackle some of the hard issues that no one else wants to tackle. Anyone wants to tell me a particular topic and send one to me that you want to get out there in a round table, we're going to do it. And we're going to do it in a round table format. We'll have 4 panelists each and every single week. We'll have one surprise guest host each and every week. One week it could be Maria, like it was tonight. And next week it could be Laura Thompson, could be Chad Loudermilk, could be Jesse West Sr., could be Randy Davis, it could be Lauren Nicholson, it could be anybody. And it could be a surprise. It could be that I have a special guest host that comes in that might be a celebrity here and there. You never know. You never know. So the surprise will always be to tune in and see who that celebrity or whoever that is that will be involved each and every single week, who that surprise guest host will be. So that's going to be the great aspect of this. So I know that I had someone who was going to be checking in from DC. I'm not sure if he's going to still be doing that or not. And at this point, I think we've really talked about a lot of those different issues and different aspects. So I'm going to touch on a few different things real quickly here before we kind of wrap things up this evening a little bit early. But I just want to make sure that we touch all of our bases here. Clues to suicide may be obvious, they may be hidden, they may be mixed. So the obvious clues, direct statements about suicide, making preparations for death, having weapons around, drinking excessively, great levels of obvious risk-taking. And then I would say the hidden clues could be extended loneliness, powerful withdrawal, excessive spending could be a big thing. Taking leaves of absences and extended trips, giving away items that are not affordable. Those are all good indicators. Feeling rejected, changes in personality is a big one. For those who don't know, I had a friend back in high school who had committed suicide, and the only real things that I saw out of him that when he committed suicide was changes in his behavior, that what he was into, he was now withdrawn from. What he wasn't into, now he was into. And the personality changes were absolutely 100% obvious in maybe dealing with anger, maybe dealing with certain situations. They were all different. Those were the real indicators looking back. Unfortunately, that's something that's touched me for a very long time. That's why I've made this such a big aspect in my mind, and that in this movement or in this community, so to speak, we're in this to save lives. That's why we're here. And if we're not going to be saving lives and helping people, then why are we here? We could be spending the time working on our own cases. We could be spending the time helping other people or helping ourselves. We could be spending the time either working or not working. But we're here for a particular reason. And it wasn't because that we were, so to speak, wanting this. You were not enlisted for this. It drafted you. You're in this war for a particular reason. And I believe that God 100%, or the almighty, all-powerful universe, wants you to be here for karma reasons or whatever it may be, to make a difference. And I really truly believe that. That each and every person has been put here for a reason. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. I think that it's going to take these people, all of us together, to end this. There will not. I don't know about you, Maria, but I'm gonna ask this because you're in the civil rights movement, or I've been a part of the civil rights movement. I don't foresee that they're in this movement or this community, there's going to be another Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I think it's going to take a community effort to get this done. And I don't know what your thinking is on this one, but I definitely love your opinion on that.
Well, I think within this community, you won't see one.
Yeah.
I think part of the problem is that they don't see the importance of it.
Right.
They're and that's frustrating. That angers me that children are not, and children and family are not as important as everyone else's civil rights.
Right.
And they're, and that's where hopefully we can get more civil rights attorneys involved, because the first thing is, oh, well, we don't do family cases.
Yes.
Why not? Why not? So it's very important for us to impress upon some of these civil rights leaders to take a look at these families. Reverend Barber, he was the president of the North Carolina NAACP, and he's out there running around just like Martin Luther King.
Right.
But you don't see him fighting for families. You see him fighting for individual rights or voting rights and things like that. So we need to find civil rights leaders and civil rights attorneys that are willing to fight for families.
Exactly. And I 100% agree with you, because I think I get back to this because I get so frustrated at the situation, because what is the ability to vote if your child growing up doesn't reach that age because they committed suicide because they grew up in a single parent household or a no parent household, and they don't feel that anybody loves them, so they can either commit suicide or they commit a violent crime and they end up getting shot and killed. They'll never reach the voting age. So who cares at that point if someone can vote or not, if they're African American or Hispanic or whatever, because they're not going to reach that age anyway. We need to start protecting and listening to our children in America. And how you do that is you start protecting the family, and you start protecting the family unit. You start protecting the dignity of 50-50 custody with a presumption rebuttal. I truly believe that a presumption rebuttal and changing the evidence standard to clear and convincing is a major, major step. I think that this boggles my mind, Maria, because I know that and you've been a part of probably some of the suits out there for civil rights, and in a lot of those cases, it is at the very least clear and convincing evidence, correct? And then we walk into a family court and it's a preponderance of the evidence standard. So what we're saying is, well, this evidence overweighs this evidence. I think, on the scales of things, she did take him to the doctor, so let's give her custody. What? I mean, that's just absolutely absurd. To weigh things on a scale in that direction. And then we give our common criminals who rob someone, we say, oh, you have to be guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And doesn't that seem...
It's backwards.
Yeah. I mean, it really is irony at its finest.
I don't like the fact that civil court doesn't require the same stringent convictions or say the preponderance of evidence as criminal court. What's the difference between locking someone up for the rest of their life or taking a child away from their parents for the rest of their life? It's still prison no matter which way you look at it. Except with families, you have the parents who are in prison because they'll never see their children, and you have children who are in prison because they've been removed from the home forever in an environment that's not their family.
Exactly. And so I think you're right, because what I would say is, if you were going to punish somebody in this lifetime, if you were going to punish somebody and you really had the most absolute 100% hatred for the human existence towards someone, what would you do? You would probably take away their family, so they had to wander around for the rest of their life not having their family with them. That is the most atrocious pain anyone can ever feel in their entire life. To have their baby ripped from their arms, to have their child that they just took out for ice cream the other day, and you're holding this memory in your head for the next 18 years or however long it is, of this child eating ice cream, and you took them out for ice cream, and that's the last thing you can remember. That has to be the saddest thing in the world. And what I'm trying to do is to talk normal to you and tell you that it's okay to feel that, but it's also okay to let that burn inside you, not to hurt you, but to let it light a fire in you and ignite you to say, I'm going to study this law. I'm going to learn every single possible thing that I can learn. I'm going to learn everything that I can. I'm going to get every advice that I can from good people, so that way I can fight and help in my own case, and I'm going to help other people too, because no one should have to go through what I just went through in having this exhaustive memory of my child eating ice cream for the next 18 years. I don't think anyone should ever have to go through that. And we have all had to go through that in this community. And I think that there's nothing wrong with feeling that depression, but letting that depression consume you, there is something wrong with that. And if you need help and you need guidance, seek that out. Seek that out from us. Seek that out from other people that you trust, that are going to listen to you and what you have to say. So again, and if you don't feel that trust in this community, please pick up the phone and call 1-800-273-8255. And with that being said, I want to thank everyone tonight. Let's see here. We've got 32 to 64 million children nationwide that go through parental alienation. Yes, Lori, absolutely. Definitely out there. And Ruby Strickland, hi, how are you? And all of those people out there, we love you. We definitely care about you so much, and keep fighting in this. That's the biggest thing that I can tell you. There's a lot of people going through this. It's a struggle. It is. It's a daily struggle, but we want you to keep in there. We want you to hang in there. And I'm going to play this very last video here tonight, which I'm trying to queue up as I kind of talk here. So I apologize for that. So it's usually, somebody talking in the meantime while I'm usually queuing up videos. So this is brand new.
I can talk for you. I can talk for you. One thing I do want to say is that I think that as advocates, especially those who are fighting for families and also for their own families, it's can be overwhelming. Advocates need to be able to reach out to each other for support, emotional support.
Yes.
And, because it's not just the families that are going through this. It's emotionally draining.
Yes.
And you can get overwhelmed and you can get depressed just from your own cases. So
Absolutely.
Don't be afraid to reach out to each other. Don't be afraid to reach out to anyone, because anyone can become, depressed and suicide and overwhelmed.
That's 100% right. Absolutely 100% right. And I definitely want to say thank you so much to the TNT team that has kind of helped us behind the scenes and worked. I want to definitely thank the board of directors as well, who have put up with me and all of the nonsense that I've had to bring them lately. So thank you so much. And we're going to work in conjunction. We're going to build this thing, and the goal is to build an actual facility for Talking Normal in Normal, Illinois, and that's going to be the goal, to become a 501c3, to have this come up, and to have an actual facility with sound studio and all of that, so that we can help all of those out there that are in the movement. If you need an MP3 or an MP4 produced, we're going to try and do that for you, and we're going to try and do it at a very, very reduced cost, if anything. It'll probably just be a donation to help us keep running as a 501c3. So we're going to be absolutely 100% transparent in those funds as well. We believe that if you're contributing to something that we're doing, then we need to be fully transparent with those funds and where those are spent. So we want to definitely thank you guys very much for tuning in. Definitely share this show. Hopefully it affect somebody and we can save some lives out there in this movement. That's what this is all about here, is helping people and reaching people and saving lives. I know that we paid much attention to that during the last show. We were reaching 5 to 7K people, and that would be outstanding. But each of those 5 to 7K people out there are a human life, and that's what the numbers tell us is are we really reaching people and reaching them on an emotional level. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I want to say this as we sign off here. Definitely thank you, Maria, as well, for coming on tonight, and we greatly appreciate you, and we'll be working with you in the future here. So I want to say also this this video here hopefully gives you kind of an aspect. It's kind of done in an artistic way of where we've come from and where we're going to. So we want to definitely tell you, keep living, keep fighting, and keep talking normal. First off, we just wanted to say thank you very much to Americans for Equal Share Parenting for allowing us to be here today.
I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to fall to lose it all. In the end, it doesn't even matter.
One thing, I don't know why. It doesn't even matter how hard you try. Keep that in mind. I designed this rhyme to remind myself of a time when in spite of the way you were mocking me, acting like I was part of your property, remembering all the times you fought with me, I'm surprised it got so. Things aren't the way they were before. You wouldn't even recognize me anymore. Not that you knew me back then, but it all comes back to me. You kept everything inside, and even though I tried, it all fell apart. What it meant to me will eventually be a memory of a time when I
tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to fall to lose it all, but in the end, it doesn't even matter.